Live from the Clarity from Chaos studios, heard worldwide, it's Dave Campbell. On every episode, Dave and his guests explore, discuss, and work on solutions to some of life's biggest challenges. So, if you're ready, be prepared to be enlightened, amused, and even shocked by what you hear. And now, the real, the authentic, the one and only Dave Campbell.
And thank you for listening to Clarity from Chaos. I'm your host, Dave Campbell. On this episode, we're going to be examining even more taxpayer abuse, if you can believe it. This time it comes from the state of New York and the current governor's efforts to allow a major union into the revamped Medicaid program to the tune of $11 billion. Not the $9 billion that they're chasing in Minnesota, but $11 billion in New York. Now, by the way, if you would like to support what we're doing here at Clarity, go out to my website on Substack and hit the subscribe button. The site address is clarityfromchaos.substack.com. And while you're out there, you can see who the upcoming guests are going to be. We have a terrific guest on this episode of Clarity, but first I want to talk about the need for us as a country to become a lot more spiritual. Modern day propaganda has everyone convinced that they are the center of the universe, and what they want or don't want is all that is important. Everything revolves around the I or me. Basic right and wrong does not enter the discussion if it doesn't fit the individual's paradigm. This brainwashing has been going on for the last 50 years or so and has now infected many generations. We're at the point that I feel an intervention is needed. And that intervention is represented by first recognizing the ongoing effort to destroy Christianity in this country, and second, to reacquaint yourself with the church and the Bible. We need to come together and have faith in God and his ability to combat this evil. Belief is what is needed. Discard your negative thoughts and develop positive ones. As we strengthen our spiritual foundation, we must also address the practical challenges facing our communities, one being healthcare reform. Our values of compassion and care should guide us on how we approach these issues. To help us navigate these complex healthcare topics, we are joined by someone with deep expertise in the field, the Chief Operating Officer of Caring Professionals, Mr. Julian Hagman. His expertise spans healthcare technology, value-based selling, territory development, operations management, and forming strategic partnerships. Welcome to the show, Julian.
Hi, thank you very much for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So let's start out with the whole healthcare thing, because I saw something today that President Trump issued his own take on healthcare. Because apparently, I don't know if everybody understands, today is the last day for sign up for the healthcare stuff, but they're pushing, to extend the subsidies and everything else, which all comes out of our wallets collectively. And I was just curious about your thoughts around just healthcare and healthcare reform in general.
So I unfortunately I didn't see what was said today. I was in court. Running all around, working on some of my things.
Yeah, well, Trump came out basically and issued an outline of what he expects healthcare reform to look like, right? Accountability for insurance companies. He was leveraging what he did with the pharmaceuticals and so on and so forth to drive healthcare down, the cost down, and move it more towards the patient, which we're going to talk about with what you do, move it more to the patient side of the house than to the third party, I guess, for lack of a better term, their side of the house, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I was never a big fan of the ACA to begin with, and providing the subsidies to offset those health insurance costs when there's tons of individuals throughout the country like myself that are paying full premium. And if those people were to jump on a plan similar to mine, then my health insurance and everybody else's health insurance would drop.
Right.
And so, while there's a majority of Americans flipping the bill, there's, the same side that is getting, deal of a lifetime.
Yeah, no, exactly. And one of the interesting things is that I found out the other day, Julian, was I think in the last enrollment period, there were like 29 plus million people on the files, on the rolls, and it's dropped down to somewhere around 5 million, which begs the question, what happened to the other 20 million, which I think in a large part were the immigrants that came in and they got flushed out of the system, and the ongoing scrutiny to the fraud and abuse that's been going on, I think is starting to flush them out. And I also heard the other day that to enroll in these programs, they weren't even requiring a social security number. It was basically all you had to do was show up, give them your name and so on, and away you went. So, it just was loaded for fraud. I mean, simple as that. It's just loaded for fraud. Because
Well, and that seems to be the going trend
Yeah.
when you get into politics and healthcare, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fraud and the main reason being is lack of oversight. Government not understanding the full scope of something when they create legislation and a plan to be followed, and it
Right.
excludes very certain items and very important items, which are very relative and important to be able to catch. Not only fraud but waste, abuse, you name it.
Yeah. So let's kind of shift gears and go into your head on defiance and charge against Governor Hochul and the SEIU and what's going on with this whole home care issue.
Yeah. So let me just give you a quick background,
Yeah, please.
so you and the listeners understand really who I am. So I've been in home and community-based services for over a decade in New York State. I am very involved on the political action side through associations and different groups. I get work with members of the community, not only providers, but as well as recipients of the services to understand the needs and the growing evolution of the program in the state. So that being, the foundation, I'm very familiar. I'm up in Albany, every year advocating for state budget needs and asks. And so, I've seen how the sausage is made, so to speak. It's not a fun process, but, I see what needs to be done in order to push an agenda. And I understand now, after going through everything I've gone through, what to look for when stuff isn't right and it's not feeling right. And sure enough, it comes to fruition. It's a program is being ripped apart, taken away, monopolized, all because state legislature thinks, oh, this is a good plan. They were sold on a good plan, right? And there's something always more to that story.
Right.
And then to circle it back, just, what's going on in New York with, this major healthcare fraud system, for years through these associations. Providers such as myself have been going to the legislature to demand reforms to the consumer directed personal assistance program.
Okay.
We demanded guardrails, we demanded audits, we demanded licensure because the program was growing out of control for five straight years, just record growth. There were studies that came out that showed that the home care market in New York State was the fastest growing job market and accounted for nearly all the job growth in the state.
Whoa.
Right. So that should tell you that when I tell you it exploded over 5 years because there was no oversight and it was easy for providers to come in and gain access to, provide these services. And, as a company that's been around for 32 years in New York State and has decades of experience and coordination with the State Department of Health and different, local services, right? It really is a slap in the face where I get looked at in a bad light and I get programs that I've been offering for all these years to ensure that I offer completely holistic end-to-end home care services, right? I don't want any gaps in care. And so sometimes I'm able to move people from bucket to bucket to bucket, whatever suits their needs at that given time. And
Sure.
now this is being taken away from the local providers, such as myself. So there's going to be these gaps where someone may need this kind of service, and then we have to say, go call this company. It's not something that I can then turn around and work with my case managing team to triage the situation and get them the, continued
Right.
service where there's no gaps of care and ensure continuity.
Sure.
So that being said, there was years and years and years of warning signs. And then in the 2024 state budget, the governor and the executive committees in New York State thought it would be a good idea to consolidate the entire program from 600 providers to one statewide provider, in essence, creating a state-sanctioned monopoly.
Exactly.
Yep. They did this by creating budget language that required the state to conduct a request for proposal for the program.
Right.
In that request for proposal, they also bypass comptroller review. They exclude all current New York State providers that have been providing this service and mandate that you have to be an out-of-state provider. There's more.
Okay, keep going. Keep going. It's just, I just smell the rat. I can smell the rat.
Just save it for the end. Trust me. Your jaw will be on the table.
Okay. All right.
So they bypassed state comptroller review. And like you said, this is an $11 billion a year program. One program, $11 billion a year. And they said, no one needs to look at the contracts. So we're going to skip that. Companies like myself that have been rooted in New York State and have offices spread around the state that have developed in the communities in which they belong, right, are not able to even bid to be able to provide this service. So that's that aspect of it, right? And then when, being very involved in the legislature, right, you're going around and you're talking to different assemblymen, senators, whether Democrat, Republican, it didn't matter. This is a bipartisan issue on both sides. This is elder care, disability care. This is something that we can all be on the same page about, I would think, right?
Yeah, you would
and
think.
And they're even preaching the word, I bet you, that, this company, it's called Public Partnerships LLC. I bet you $500 million that PPL wins this RFP. And this was tweeted by Democratic lawmakers in Albany before the RFP was even put out, published, responded to.
On the street, huh? Oh my!
Before anything, right?
Okay.
And so, while we're there, we knew that we got winds that there was a backroom meeting that sort of happens between this company that won the bid, as well as senior officials from the executive's office, as well as the Medicaid director for the Department of Health.
The state of New York's Medicaid director, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So we have all this information. We don't have any proof of anything, but all this is coming out slowly and slowly and slowly. So then fast forward to where they are now published the RFP. There was only 3 qualified bidders that were eligible to be submitting the RFP out of 700 submissions, mind you, because everyone in New York State that was currently providing the service applied regardless, right? But there was only 3 that were qualified bidders, which met the criteria of this RFP.
The RFP, right. Okay.
From those qualified bidders, PPL became the winner. However, we just got a recent FOIA request back that shows that the New York State Department of Health Medicaid director, as well as the senior executives from the governor's office, met with PPL prior to the budget even being finalized. Okay. So there was collusion prior to the budget being finalized.
Right.
We have sworn testimony from then PPL's president that there was 0 communication with the state.
See, that should have disqualified them right there.
Oh, there's more that'll disqualify. You'll say you're going to be a broken record.
All right. I'll shut up.
And then, so you have all these issues, right? And then additionally, on that email that was sent with all these executives, Amir Basiri, the state Medicaid director, he's the one that graded all the requests for proposals. So the 3 are the qualified bids that came in. He's the one that graded them. So I went out and I talked to the other 2 qualified bidders. I said, hey, did you by chance have a meeting with the state Medicaid director and senior executives from the governor's office? No, I did not. Well, that's weird. Why wouldn't they offer you the same service that they offered this company? Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's just another conflict item. So then now we're pushing it down. So now we get to a New York State Senate held a hearing, right? So the Senate held a hearing on this exact issue. And in that hearing, the state legislature showed draft budget language, which actually mentions that they were just going to move to PPL. So this was before they even put an RFP in the budget amendment. They named the company that what they wanted to handpick to run this program. Additionally, right? So now we have this draft budget language that mentions Public Partnerships LLC. They tried to put it in the budget, but then they were told you can't do that. That's illegal. It's state funds. It needs to be a qualified bid prospect, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how they got removed and the RFP got entered into the budget.
Yeah. Okay.
So now let's take one step back, right? So Public Partnerships LLC, the individual company that won the bid. Who owns Public Partnerships LLC? You might wonder. You might wonder. So it's owned by private equity, right? And the 2 major private equity companies. It's Linden Capital and DW Healthcare. They own majority share, about 70% of it. But there's also this other company that owns about 26% of it. It's called Public Consulting Group. Public Consulting Group consults on Medicaid programs across the nation for all 50 states. Every state has a form of this program in there. Public Consulting Group additionally has a staffing organization. It's called Staffing Solutions. Most states use gap accounting. So really departments of health on paper for the DOH have 20 employees, 30 employees, but they have hundreds that they use through staffing organizations, right?
Sure.
Just for accounting reasons.
Right.
So it turns out that this Public Consulting Group staffs the New York State Medicaid department, right? And the senior Medicaid officials. And so they own 26% of a company that just won $11 billion a year bid. And they didn't include that on their conflict of interest statements. They didn't have anything along those lines. But when you look at it, they controlled not only how the state was going to view the program, how the RFP was written, who graded the RFP, and they had control of it from beginning to end. Right. And so it was tailor made so they would only be one of the few qualified bidders. Right. And all this stuff came out. And so, I'm sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, this is crazy. How is no one else raising the alarm and freaking out about this?
Exactly.
Right. And then it sort of comes together. Now that there's only one provider of this service, it's very easy to unionize that workforce because you don't have to go to 600 different providers. You can just go to one. And so now we have 1199 SEIU, one of the nation's largest labor unions, that's coming in and is attempting to unionize this entire workforce. That would generate over $200 million a year in dues alone to 1199 SEIU, which is just disgusting, if you ask me, because these are family caregivers.
Right.
They a joint employer. There's all of the minimum wage and health minimum wage is legislative set in New York State. There's no need for a labor bureau to what are you going to do out? What are you going out to do for me? Right? Everything's already law.
Exactly.
And so,
and it's taxpayer money. Yeah,
all of it. It's not just New York taxpayer money, right? Because this is a Medicaid program. This is a federal match, right? 50-50.
Yeah. I was just going to say it comes out of my wallet just as much as it comes out of your wallet.
Yep. And so the Hochul administration was, and they still are, going on and on about how this program was on fiscal because of the extreme growth that it experienced, and it was ripe with fraud. Right? Those are the two things that they keep repeating, and they wanted economies of scale and all that. all the key buzzwords that make you throw up in your mouth. Those are what they keep using over and over and over again. But, at a certain point, yeah, it's really not a reform that they're pulling off here. It's more of a consolidation of power, right? Because they're able to control those funds that way.
And I was going to say, and the contributions to somebody's campaign come directly out of, go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, I've already uncovered so many conflicts and conflicts and conflicts.
Yeah.
Like, you can only imagine where the money's actually flowing to special interest groups, the NGOs, the PACs, you name it. I mean, this company is going to be profiting over $1 billion a year. That's a lot of money for a company that never worked in a state to make in 1 year.
Right. Yeah. That's not bad. So why hasn't the press picked up on this?
The local press has. The local press in New York is all over it. You can go on the New York Post, the Times Union, New York Times, Wall Street. It's here. It's here, but it's all in the local New York press. Why this isn't making a national splash is beyond me. It doesn't have, it's not set. The fraud that was uncovered in Minnesota, right?
Right.
They gained popularity because of the Leering Center, right?
Yeah.
That's what really gained the traction on it.
Yeah, that's what lit it up. Yeah.
Home care is a one-on-one kind of model. And so there's no centers I can go to. There's nothing I can take a picture of. It's a very confusing kind of, what I just brought you through in 20 minutes, right? I'm leaving a lot out.
Well, sure. And it's a program where it's very personalized, right? It's family to family to family to family, and every one of them's different, and every one of them's important. And it's just, I think the only thing that's missing here are the suitcases of money leaving LaGuardia.
Yeah,
that's
to
me. That's the only, and maybe it's suitcases of money ending up in Hochul's war chest, so that she gets reelected as governor. And I think that's part of it. I'm trying to think. Stefanik dropped out of the governor's race, right?
Yep. Bruce Blakeman is in.
Okay.
I got Elise Stefanik did endorse the calls for an investigation into this program in New York State. Bruce Blakeman did the same thing. He endorsed calls for an investigation into the same thing. The Department of Justice is actively investigating it.
Yeah.
They've been very involved. I've interviewed with them numerous times. I know other individuals who have interviewed with them numerous times. I'm very hopeful that they'll be coming out with something soon. But in the meantime, it's really just, I have the last lawsuit against them. I was in court today trying to gain discovery through a tortious interference clause, right? A claim. And, I'm back in court April 1st to hear the response from the judge, whether I'm either entitled to discovery or he's been dismissed. But, like you said, you look at where the money is going, right? It's going to very, Democratic friendly organizations.
I was going to say, I did some research on 1199, and they might as well have published the Marx Manifesto, because it's nothing but the framework of socialism. And quite frankly, it's pretty scary. It's right up there with the DSA and everything else. If people are not paying attention to this, they think about the unionization and all of that stuff, but they're talking about affordable housing, racism, LGBTQ, women's rights, environmental, all the idiot buzzwords that we continually hear on a day in and day out basis. And it all smells of socialism. And and they're very active. Their PAC is extremely active. So I'm sitting here going, well, I know partly where part of their money's coming from is because they're sitting there, they're bilking the Medicaid program.
And they're very large in California too. And this program is large in California. I spoke to California providers that this exact scenario happens to them, right? This exact scenario has happened across the country already. New York was one of the last cities or states,
right,
that they were trying to enter into. And
Well,
you're unfortunately, you're dealing with very spiteful people in New York, and I'm not gonna, lay down and let you just walk all over me. Like you said, this isn't, this isn't a communist country. You can't take 600 businesses away overnight from people and expect everyone just to roll over.
no,
I mean, that's just not how it happens. I've put a decade of experience and effort and work into grow to where we are now. My owner of my company, put 32 years in before I started to get and come with her in this company. Right. So, there's too much effort, too much time, too many connections, too many.
yeah, no, I agree. So let's talk about the company, the Caring Professionals. Why don't you give the audience the background of who they are? And some of the stuff I was reading was the support for the CDPAP.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, you could talk about where that is in all of this.
Yeah, sure. So Caring Professionals. So we're fully holistic home care agency. So no matter what the service, I want to be able to ensure that you have continuity of care, the same care coordinator reaching out to you and talking to you. So you build a relationship, you have an experience, you have a comfort level to be able to, express any concerns, any kind of preferences, stuff like that. It's easier to communicate with somebody that you trust rather than somebody that you don't really know that really cares. Right.
Right.
And so, we build these relationships with our clients over years. And to that, we do the same thing with our employees. We have employees that are coming on service now, right? That have worked for us for 25 years,
Whoa.
aged into the program and now are getting service. And they choose us because they understand our model of care. But my whole focus has always been and always will be ensuring that there's no gaps in coverage. Right. And that's entitles me to be able to go out and find service areas that would fit, whatever region or area I'm in to ensure that there's no gaps in care. Because the whole goal is to prevent hospitalizations, keep people out of the nursing home and safe where they want to be. Right. That's my whole philosophy, always has been. I'm definitely partial.
Sure. Well,
but
I mean, we're talking about mom and dad here, right? I mean, because everybody at some point or another is going to need if they can, that personalized elder care. And they're not going to want to go into a boneyard, right? And they want to stay in their home. They want, they want to be where they're comfortable, they're safe, and they're cared for. I think what you guys are doing is remarkable. And are you just contained in the state of New York, or are you expanding out into the other?
So I'm expanding out to the other states, coming into Michigan, going into Arizona, Florida, PA. And so, I've seen the writing on the wall. There's only so many stones I can go under to look for funding in New York State when you realize that, everything is all show and they already have a roadmap planned out and there's no sense, right? I've seen what they did with this, $11 billion a year program, how they just stripped providers away. I had to lay off 50% of my staff. I knew people that had to just close their doors completely, and it's just not right. So, it takes one with the courage to stand up and the rest will follow. And so in New York, that's what I'm trying to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this issue up. I have a friend of mine that has a fairly close relationship with Bondi and a few other people, including Trump. And I'm going to bring this issue up as well because this isn't right, and it needs to get a lot more. I mean, I hate to see you being the only one standing there, facing the eagle, right? When they're being pounced on, and you're the only one being defiant, right?
I'm fine with it. I'm ready for the fight. But you can only kick a guy so many times before, let's go.
Well, I'm sorry, but it just pisses me off.
Oh, I know, as it should.
They've already turned over New York, and I'm kind of waiting to see if reality is going to rise up and slap the current mayor. But I can only imagine now with what's going on in Albany with this if it doesn't get some accountability around it, because it should never have happened, right? And it should see the full light of day. I mean, yeah, it just isn't correct. So
I agree, and thank you for your support. I thank you for everything like that. It's
yeah. No, I'm like I said, I have several contacts that, knock on wood, have a direct shot into the Oval Office. So, and fortunately, I'm going to be talking to that individual in the next couple of days. So, it'll get mentioned again, I guarantee you.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
So, is this going to get drug out, Julian, or do you think your efforts are going to start, paying dividends?
So I hope my efforts pay dividends, right? I mean, I filed my initial lawsuit against PPL a year ago today. I was back in court today for a conference, a status update conference. I currently have a motion to open discovery on the table. They have a motion to dismiss on the table. I was tired of all the back and forth and delays. Right. So last time I asked my attorney, let's get a judgment motion going, right? Rule on everything up to this point. Right. All the papers are in. I'm happy with everything. And so that's where we're at. Today we were there discussing everything that we've submitted and talked about the current, news cycle of things. Right. What else has come out in terms of FOIA requests, FOIA delays from the state, everything along these lines. And he gave us April 21st as his rule, the date he's going to rule. And, from there, but you know how this goes, right?
Yeah.
Well, even if I get discovery, it's going to be delayed and appealed. And
oh, yeah. But I just marked that down on my calendar as April 21st. We're going to have you back on, because I want to keep my finger on this one, because it's really important. And there's, given the amount of people that lost their lives through COVID, mismanagement, and all the crap that happened in the last couple of years, and to have somebody that has an organization that does nothing but supply caring individuals that support these people. You got somebody else going to be out there swinging too. So we've been talking to Julian Hagman, the Chief Operating Officer of Caring Professionals, and it's been enlightening. It's been a real pleasure, sir, for having you on the show, and we'll continue this fight. You're not in it by yourself. I can tell you that right now.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, you're not in it by yourself. So anyway, take care, and thank you again for taking the time to bring this to everybody's attention, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thanks, Julian.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more Clarity from Chaos shows on demand, go to clarityfromchaos.buzzsprout.com or send Dave an email at info@clarityfromchaos.com for information on previous shows. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Twitter, or Google Podcast. Until next time, please remember, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Be well, everyone.